Umkhonto sizwe, military aid during apartheid, military training, naval and air force training, guerrilla tactics training. South Africa will never arrest Vladimir Putin. These are few of the dozens of reasons why the ANC will always side with Russia. Key emphasis on ANC, SWAPO in Namibia, MPLA in Angola, frelimo in Mozambique. Name a 20th century liberation movement in Africa, and you will be surprised to realize Russia was backing it all, and Russia was backing active. So these governments all have a sense of undying loyalty towards Russia. Speaking honestly with you guys, one thing the International Criminal Court doesn't know about South Africans is that we don't like being told what to do.
No one is going to tell me what to do at what time. I'm in charge. That's why these fools are running around here. I'm in charge.
On a point of order, Chair.
Order, Chairperson.
Point of order, Chairperson.
Order, Chairperson.
Point of order.
The ruling party by
Order,
Point of
Chairperson.
order. Chairperson.
Biden replaces Trump, China hates America, Russia hates America, Saudi Arabia hates America. Heck, it's hard to find somebody that doesn't have hatred towards the American empire nowadays. Putin invades Ukraine, almost every nation condemns him for those horrible actions. Of course, they are horrible after all, but China made it clear that they side with Russia. A massive blow towards the EU because, as you all know, China is the second largest economy, and on top of all that, they have a massive population and a very formidable military force. So what about South Africa? What did we say about Russia invading Ukraine? Well, it's kinda tricky. At first, our beloved minister Naledi Pandor publicly condemned Russia. I'm guessing at that moment she forgot that she's part of the African National Congress, and so the president had to remind her and then come out publicly voicing the ANC's support for Russia. South Africa even held military drills with Russia very recently. Honestly, I believe no normal modern day nation supports war of any kind. My only complaint is the fact that when war happens in Europe or in the United States, we must suddenly all care and cry with them. But when war is in Africa or the Middle East or even in South America, these big nations don't even give our region half the attention the current Russia-Ukraine matter is getting. Another matter I fail to understand is the lack of democracy in our country of South Africa when it comes to the matter concerning who we ally and who we oppose. We as the people must be involved because we do the fighting when war starts to break out. These old pricks just hide and start to send instructions to us. Few months down the line, the world is split between two factions, the pro-America faction and the anti-America faction, headed by BRICS. BRICS is basically a union between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The more I researched, I began to realize this is some Axis and ally shit right here. Now, with Saudi Arabia looking to join BRICS, the tug of war has become intense. The International Criminal Court has ordered South Africa to arrest Vladimir Putin when he arrives here in South Africa for the 2023 BRICS meeting. And do you know what our South African president said? ICC can kiss my ass. That's what he said. Okay, he didn't really say that, but I'm guessing the South African in him actually said it. The International Criminal Court has lost a lot of power and influence. Heck, even America throws middle fingers at them. So let's talk about the relationship between Russia and South Africa. More specifically, the relationship between Russia and the ANC. How deep does this rabbit hole actually go? Let's travel back to the 1800s, back to the Transvaal Republic. The Transvaal Republic was an independent Boer nation in Southern Africa which existed from 1852 to 1902 when it was annexed by the British Empire as a result of the Second Boer War. In 1896, the Transvaal Republic established diplomatic relations with Russia. The Boer War was extensively covered by the Russian media, and numerous books, articles, plays, pamphlets, and poems were established about the war, usually with a pronounced pro-Boer slant. Though several hundred Russians did make their way to fight for the Transvaal, upon arriving they were often shocked by the corruption of the Transvaal government, its organized ways, and the casual brutality of the Afrikaners towards the black people. The African National Congress and the former Soviet Union have a long history together, with Josiah Changana Gumede visiting the Soviet Union. Josiah is basically one of the founding members that created ANC in 1927. After the apartheid regime was banned, the ANC in 1960 received aid from the Soviet Union for its exiled mission in fighting to liberate South Africa from minority white rule. This aid exceeded the aid they received from anyone else. It was only from the end of the 1970s that Scandinavian donations became higher than Soviet donations. But Scandinavian aid remained limited to peaceful aid. The Soviets were out here giving weapons and other military aid to the ANC's armed wing Umkhonto sizwe. 1988, Moscow started giving training in guerrilla warfare with training in conventional warfare, including naval and air force training. Historical links such as these were evident in the divide between African states during the UN General Assembly vote to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Namibia, which is governed by SWAPO, Angola by the MPLA, and Mozambique by Frelimo, joined South Africa and abstained. As I said earlier, SWAPO, the MPLA, and Frelimo also received foreign aid from Russia or the Soviet Union during the 20th century Cold War when they were engaged in liberation movements and fighting guerrilla wars. The foundation of Russia's relationship with African nations is very deep. Russia has a proven track record of loyalty and actually taking action when needed. Would you choose to side with someone that has a record of bringing guns to a fight or someone else that comes empty-handed? I would definitely pick the safer choice, which is definitely choosing someone that is coming to the fight armed and ready. Hence, nations picking Russia instead of America and the G7 nations. Directly after the collapse of the Soviet Union, South Africa recognized the Russian Federation in December 1991 and established diplomatic relations, becoming the first African nation. In 1993, the two countries signed a trade agreement, followed by the signing of a military cooperation agreement in 1995. The April 1999 visit to Russia by President Nelson Mandela started a period of warming between Russia and South Africa. Putin's 2006 visit to South Africa is noted as a particular turning point in strengthening of bilateral relations. In all honesty, I believe South Africa was looking to distance itself from Western action during the fall of Muammar Gaddafi, which many South African politicians seem to have a strong hatred towards. South Africa did have a positive relation with Gaddafi and Fidel Castro after all. Bear in mind, I'm not saying I condone whatever evil actions these two men committed, but I'm just telling you about the relationship the country had with them. In South Africa, we really have a history of not following ICC rules. In 2015, the nation was instructed to arrest Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, and we gave him a cup of coffee instead, with extra milk of course. From al-Bashir to Fidel Castro to Muammar Gaddafi, the ANC sure does love throwing middle fingers at the United States and Europe. Let's talk about BRICS for a second. I'm sure earlier on you heard the name, and you have heard the name before probably. BRICS is the alliance between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The first four were initially grouped as BRIC in 2001 by Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill, who coined the term to describe fast-growing economies that would collectively dominate the global economy by 2050. These nations hold 41.5% of the global population. 41.5%. On top of that, Brazil, Russia, India, and China are among the world's top 10 largest countries by population, area, and GDP. Ahead of a BRICS summit, South Africa's Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor said there are 12 countries interested in joining BRICS. Of those 12, she mentioned 7 countries, specifically Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Algeria, Argentina, Mexico, and Nigeria. The BRICS are considered the foremost geopolitical rival to the G7 bloc of leading advanced economies: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Basically the cool kids club. And if you closely look at BRICS from my eyes, you'll notice that it's a club of rejects basically, or clubs of nations that the European giants view as nations that are a threat, or nations most likely cause a war. There is more to it than actually meets the eye. We'll touch all these other matters later on in the future.